Police in Switzerland say that several dozen people are presumed dead after a fire at a bar in the ski resort of Crans-Montana. Around 100 others have been injured. Authorities have confirmed that the incident is not being seen as an attack, but police have given no cause for the fire. Well, these are some of the very latest pictures from Crans-Montana as authorities continue their investigation. A team of specialist forensic investigators is now at the scene. The Italian ambassador to Switzerland has warned it may take weeks to identify the victims. And this footage, verified by the BBC, shows the moment that dozens of ambulances and hundreds of members of emergency responders began arriving at the scene in the early hours of New Year's Day. Well, the incident happened in the town of Crans-Montana, just over 100 miles from the capital, Bern. The area is popular with tourists from across Europe, many of whom will have been celebrating the new year. Lee Milner begins our coverage.
A night of celebration turned into devastation. It was inside this bar in the popular ski resort of Crans-Montana where a fire broke out just after 1:30 in the morning, local time. Police say several dozen are thought to be dead, with at least 100 people injured, many with severe burns. It's understood the victims are of several different nationalities.
At first I thought it was just fireworks for New Year's Eve, but then I saw a lot of people screaming. There was panic.
It was like in the movies. There was smoke everywhere. There was smoke in the lift. With the help of the concierge, I crossed the balcony and got out.
10 helicopters, 40 ambulances and 150 responders were sent to the scene. Police say the emergency operation will continue for the next few days.
In this difficulty, Switzerland is demonstrating solidarity. We also note that a psychological support centre has been opened for families in the hospital and is being put in place in the different sites, the different hospital sites in our canton.
Crans-Montana is an upmarket ski resort that's home to 87 miles of ski trails. Situated in the Swiss region of Valais, it's popular with British tourists. Valais Hospital's intensive care unit is now full, with patients being sent elsewhere for specialist burns treatment. It's not yet clear what caused the fire, but police have ruled out an attack. Lee Milner, BBC News.
Well, one person who was trapped by the fire but did manage to escape has been speaking in just the last hour about his experience. And just to warn you, some of his account is distressing.
We were trapped. A lot of people were trapped. We couldn't see because of the smoke. We didn't know how we were going to get out. I was alone and didn't know how I could do it. But I managed to break a window and get out through the window. Half of my clothes were gone. It was crazy. I was in the basement. Me and my friends were having fun. Unfortunately, some of our friends are no longer with us because of the fire. It was crazy. People were trapped. I had to put a table up to hide behind it, trapped by the blaze. But I got out. That's the main thing. There were waitresses with champagne bottles with flares too close to the ceiling. Fire took hold suddenly.
Well, one eyewitness said that bystanders rushed to help move injured people away from the flames to a nearby bar and restaurant, which stayed open as a makeshift refuge.
Understandably, they don't want civilians getting in and involving and getting in the way. And many were able to help carrying, I don't want to say corpses. I think everyone who was out and kind of reactive survived. But carrying bodies out of the fire from there, at least a bit further away. You see there's the Bar 1900, that was the first kind of responding place. They did amazing to stay open. It was warm in there, that was what was needed. As mentioned before, the main, I think, problem was the temperature shock from the heat inside to the cold outside. So one of the priorities was to get everyone warm. I mean, I'm talking the curtains of the restaurant was used. And yeah, I mean, many gory scenes. There were many who were very strong, who stayed strong and who understood that their life was in grave danger, but decided that mentally it was more important to stay calm.
Our BBC News colleague Sylvia Costello is at the scene. She's been speaking to some local residents.
So you've been offering biscuits and coffee to the police here. Can you tell me why?
Because we live next door. I think they've been on duty for quite a while now. And they must be cold, but apparently not enough. Some of them didn't take the biscuits or the coffee.
Or the coffee. And how do you feel about this tragedy unfolding here in Crans-Montana?
Terrible. Appalling. Slowly we're starting to hear news how many people were involved. It's terrifying.
Young people.
Young people, mostly young people.
Yeah, having a good time.
Terrifying.
And earlier I actually spoke to Sylvia. She gave this update from close to the scene of the fire in Crans-Montana.
People are in absolute shock and horror, although there is a mix. There are some people who don't even know what's happened yet. A woman just walked up to see if the local supermarket was open and was told by police she couldn't go, and she was just very confused. But what's happening in the last few minutes, which is very sad, is that we're seeing hearses coming in. I don't know if these are 2 more hearses coming in, but we've seen at least 3 or 4 of them. So that would mean the bodies are still there. They're still behind that white walled area that police erected early this morning. It wasn't there earlier this morning. And as you can see, just here, possibly another hearse going through. We've seen 4. And obviously authorities have been talking about the death toll, saying several dozens people have died. Italian authorities have put that number to about 40. So we know the scale of the incident that happened last night at New Year's Eve here is absolutely tragic. And the bodies are being taken, some of the bodies are being taken away now as we speak.
An incredibly difficult situation. And just talk us through what Crans-Montana is like. You go there regularly, you really know this place. It's a place where people go and enjoy themselves.
It's a very joyful place. It's a ski resort. It's in Switzerland. We're here in the Valais, the French-speaking part of Switzerland, and it's absolutely beautiful. On the other side, Italy is to that side of the valley, so you see the mountains, you see the Matterhorn, Zermatt is in that direction. So it's really kind of a beautiful, quite upmarket resort with lots of sort of chi-chi restaurants, but some great skiing, some 90 miles of slopes that people can ski. It's not connected to any other resorts, but the skiing is great and the partying is good. There's a golf course that people come and play golf in the summer. They host a golf open, and the World Skiing Championships, downhill championships, are happening here next year. So it's very highly rated as a ski resort and as a place, but also as a sort of party place. People come here and party. And last night in Constellation, I spoke to a woman who was just having a drink with her family, and she saw these young people coming in and looking for a last-minute table, and they were told there was space. They were told they would have to buy 2 bottles. This is a very Swiss thing. You buy a bottle of, say, vodka and pay a fortune for it, and they put it on your table, and they give you mixers, and then you sort of party with your friends. And that's the vibe yesterday. I mean, normally it's more of a kind of beer bar. One tourist described it as having kind of sticky floors, and they go and watch the football in the top floor. But the bottom floor, there's often some dancing or some partying, and it's a very young demographic that go there. And in fact, some hospitals are saying they're treating patients aged between 16 and 20, which absolutely figures with the kind of ages of people who were partying there last night that I've spoken to this morning, across the morning here in Crans.
Absolutely devastating, especially when you recount the ages of the people. Just in terms of the cause of the fire, the authorities have ruled out any kind of attack, but we don't know yet what was the cause behind this.
So we don't know yet. And interestingly, this morning I spoke to a few people who live here who were worried it would be a terror attack. There's quite a large Jewish community here. There's a synagogue not far from the Constellation. The police has completely ruled that out. And since then, I've heard from eyewitnesses that say that this might have been to do with champagne bottles. There was one eyewitness who said there might have been like a flare in a champagne bottle, and he described a waitress on someone's shoulders and sort of doing that and setting light to what would have been quite a low ceiling. In reality, we don't know that yet. There's been speculation about potential fireworks. People in Switzerland love fireworks. That's part of the beauty of coming here at New Year, is if you get a balcony and you look down into the valley at midnight, you will see thousands of fireworks exploding all down the valley. You know, people do their own fireworks as well as the official ones. They just love fireworks. So there was some speculation around that, but the narrative is now turning towards potential sort of champagne flares, so to do with the celebrations that sparked off this tragic incident. There was one man, really young man, he was only 16 and his parents were there, and they said they didn't let, he wanted to do an interview. They said, no, we don't want you to do an interview, come home with us. But he was at the bar, he was downstairs, and he said that he heard people saying fire, fire, and he didn't quite believe it. And then he said suddenly he felt this wave of heat sort of behind him, and he had to crouch down and go under a table. He says there's stairs from the downstairs bar to go upstairs. There's a set of stairs, but they were rammed with people running and panicking. So he hid behind a table to save himself from the heat. And eventually he made it up, and he still couldn't make it out of the bar, though. And he attacked a window with a table, and he eventually managed to get out from a window because he smashed it. But these are the sorts of stories you're hearing. Another guy, he was just helping. He thought his little brother was in there, and he just ran in and tried to help some of the victims. He said he saw people without any clothes on at all, completely burnt. Another man told me he came round about 3 o'clock because he heard this had happened, and he said there were just injured people lined all the way outside the bar. So it's incredibly grisly and tragic, and not something that you would expect happen anywhere in the world, but certainly not in a ski resort like this. And look, there's skiers behind us now. You know, life goes on. Many people are still going skiing on the slopes, and they probably live here. They're being escorted by police into their own apartments. But this area is otherwise entirely closed off.
Sylvia, what's really sobering is that authorities are actually calling for people just to be careful if they are heading to the slopes, because, as we know, the severe intensive care units are full because there are so many people with really significant injuries.
Absolutely. So the scale of this tragedy is huge. We're thinking about 40 dead. Italian officials have said about 40, several dozens expected dead, the Swiss have said. So we don't have an exact figure, but those are the numbers of dead and about 100 injured. And you're thinking this is one of the richest places in Europe. It's got fantastic infrastructure, fantastic hospitals. So people have been airlifted to various burns units and various areas, but the infrastructure is still creaking at the seams. The authorities have asked people not to injure themselves, not to go to hospital unless it's absolutely necessary, to try and alleviate some of those pressures. But people have also been airlifted to Italy, to burns units there, because this is the scale of what happened in that bar just round the corner last night. It's put on pressure on the whole of the Swiss health system.
Our BBC News colleague there, Sylvia Costello, who knows Crans-Montana really well, goes there regularly, obviously was there on holiday, now reporting for us from the scene of this absolute tragedy as we await more details. And our understanding is that Swiss authorities, the police, will be giving a press conference in roughly an hour's time. We're expecting the federal president of the Swiss Confederation to be taking part, and also the president of the municipality of Crans-Montana to take part as well. So hopefully we'll get a few more updates. But as authorities were saying, they have ruled out an attack as a possible motive for the fire, but we don't know what was the cause of the fire. And obviously we still don't know how many people lost their lives in this tragedy and what was supposed to be a happy event, a New Year's celebration at a bar in this Swiss resort. Stay with us on BBC News. We'll be heading back to this story throughout the day, but we're just going to take a short break now. Around the world, across the UK, you're with BBC News.